Have you ever noticed that fear rarely asks for permission? It doesn't wait for you to think things through or carefully weigh the evidence. It arrives first. Your heart begins to race, your breathing changes, your shoulders tense, and your mind starts searching for what could go wrong. Before you've consciously decided that something is dangerous, your nervous system has already begun preparing you to survive. If you've ever wondered, why do I feel afraid even when nothing bad is happening? Or why does fear feel so real? You're not alone. The truth is that fear is one of the oldest and most powerful survival systems the human brain has ever developed. It isn't a flaw in your character, and it doesn't mean you're weak. Fear is your brain's attempt to protect you from what it believes could cause harm. Sometimes that warning is accurate. Other times, it is responding to memories, old experiences, or emotional wounds that no longer reflect the reality of the present moment. That is why understanding fear is so important. Rather than asking, how do I stop feeling afraid? Perhaps the better question is, what is my fear trying to tell me? Because fear is not your enemy. Fear is a signal. And when we learn to understand that signal, instead of simply reacting to it, we begin to transform our relationship with fear and with ourselves. Fear exists because, for most of human history, it helped keep us alive. Long before cities, technology, and modern medicine, our ancestors survived by recognizing danger quickly. The people who noticed the rustling in the bushes, hesitated before stepping into the unknown, or sensed something wasn't quite right, were often the ones who lived long enough to pass those instincts on to future generations. In many ways, your brain is still running that same ancient survival program today. One of your brain's primary responsibilities is to answer a simple question: am I safe? It asks that question constantly, without your conscious awareness. Every sight, sound, conversation, and unfamiliar situation is quietly evaluated for potential danger. If your brain believes there is even a small chance that something could threaten your well-being, it prepares your body to respond before your logical mind has had time to analyze what is actually happening. That is why fear often feels so immediate and convincing. It wasn't designed to wait for certainty. It was designed to react quickly enough to keep you alive. The challenge is that your brain doesn't only respond to physical danger anymore. Thousands of years ago, surviving often meant escaping predators or avoiding life-threatening situations. Today, many of our greatest fears are emotional rather than physical. We fear rejection, criticism, failure, loneliness, uncertainty, and losing the people we love. While these experiences don't usually threaten our physical survival, our nervous system often responds as though they do. A presentation at work, asking someone on a date, speaking your truth, or making a major life change can trigger many of the same biological responses that once prepared our ancestors to face real physical danger. This doesn't mean your brain is malfunctioning. In fact, it is doing exactly what it evolved to do. From its perspective, it's far better to create a false alarm than to miss a real threat. If it overreacts and nothing bad happens, you've lost very little. But if it ignores genuine danger, the consequences could be far more serious. Evolution favored brains that erred on the side of caution, even if that meant feeling fear more often than necessary. The difficulty is that your brain doesn't always distinguish between what is happening right now and what has happened before. It learns from experience, stores emotional memories, and uses them to predict what might happen next. Sometimes those predictions are incredibly helpful. Other times, they keep us trapped in patterns that no longer serve us. To understand why fear can feel so overwhelming, even in situations that seem perfectly safe, we have to look at something even deeper than survival itself. We have to understand how fear remembers the past. One of the most important things to understand about fear is that it doesn't simply react to what is happening in front of you. It also reacts to what has happened to you before. Every meaningful experience, especially painful ones, leaves an imprint on the brain. Your nervous system is constantly learning from those experiences, asking, "What can I remember that might help keep me safe next time?" In many ways, fear is less of a prediction machine and more of a memory machine. It uses the past to anticipate the future. Imagine someone who was laughed at while giving a presentation in school. Years later, standing in front of co-workers, their heart begins to race before they've even spoken a word. Nothing dangerous is happening in the present, but their brain has connected being seen with being hurt. Or consider someone who trusted a partner who later betrayed them. They may find themselves becoming anxious in future relationships, not because their new partner has done anything wrong, but because their nervous system has learned that closeness can lead to pain. The fear feels completely real because at one point in their life, it was protecting them from something that truly hurt. This is one of the remarkable strengths of the human brain. It recognizes patterns and uses them to help us survive. If touching a hot stove burns your hand, you don't have to relearn that lesson every time you cook. Your brain remembers. Emotional experiences work in much the same way. The difficulty is that emotional wounds are often far more complicated than physical ones. The brain doesn't always remember the exact situation. It remembers the feeling. Then it begins searching for anything that resembles it. That is why one rejection can make every new relationship feel risky. One failure can can make every new opportunity feel threatening. One painful criticism can make sharing your ideas feel dangerous. Fear doesn't always distinguish between "this happened once" and "this will happen again." Instead, it quietly whispers, "Let's not take that chance." Psychologists sometimes describe this as emotional learning, but you might think of it as emotional time travel. Your body can react as though it is reliving an old experience, even while your mind knows you are in a completely different situation. You may feel like an adult standing in a meeting, yet somewhere beneath the surface, your nervous system is responding as if you are the 10-year-old child who was embarrassed in front of the class. The emotions belong to today, but the blueprint was drawn years ago. This doesn't mean your fear is irrational or that you should ignore it. In fact, your fear has often been trying to do something incredibly compassionate: prevent you from experiencing the same pain twice. The problem is that protection and limitation can begin to look very similar. A strategy that once kept you safe can eventually keep you small. A wall that once shielded your heart can slowly become a prison around it. Recognizing this is one of the first steps toward freedom. When fear arises, you can begin asking a different question. Instead of assuming the fear is describing the present, you can gently wonder, is this fear responding to what is happening now? Or is it remembering something that happened before? That simple moment of curiosity creates space between you and the emotion. And in that space, you begin to realize that not every warning from the past is meant to shape your future. Although fear can take countless forms, many of our deepest fears grow from the same few roots. We may tell ourselves that we're afraid of speaking in public, starting a new career, ending a relationship, or taking a chance on a dream. But if we look beneath the surface, we often find that these fears are really different expressions of the same desire to stay safe. By understanding what these common fears are truly protecting, we begin to see that they are not random weaknesses. They are deeply human responses shared by almost everyone. One of the most powerful fears is the fear of rejection. At first glance, it may seem like we're simply worried about someone saying no or not liking us. But the fear runs much deeper than that. Human beings evolved in small communities where belonging meant survival. Being accepted by the group increased your chances of finding food, protection, and support. Being excluded could have life-threatening consequences. Although our world has changed dramatically, our nervous systems still carry echoes of that ancient reality. When someone criticizes us, leaves us out, or rejects us, the emotional pain can feel surprisingly intense because our brains interpret it as a threat to belonging. That is why we sometimes stay quiet instead of speaking honestly, avoid taking risks, or hide parts of ourselves simply to to increase the chances of being accepted. Another common fear is the fear of failure. Most people believe they are afraid of making mistakes. But failure itself is rarely the real issue. Instead, we fear what failure might seem to prove about us. We worry that it means we aren't intelligent enough, talented enough, worthy enough, or capable enough. We imagine disappointing our family, losing the respect of others, or confirming the quiet doubts we've carried about ourselves for years. In many cases, failure is painful, not because of the event itself, but because of the meaning we attach to it. One unsuccessful attempt becomes, in our minds, evidence that we should stop trying altogether. Yet every meaningful accomplishment in life requires the willingness to be imperfect, to learn, and to grow through experiences that don't always go as planned. Then there is the fear of change, a fear that often surprises people, because we naturally assume everyone wants their lives to improve. But our brains are designed to prefer what is familiar over what is unknown, even when our current circumstances are uncomfortable. They are predictable. We know how to navigate them. Change, on the other hand, introduces uncertainty. We don't know what will happen, whether we'll succeed, or whether we'll be able to handle what comes next. Because the brain values certainty, it often chooses familiar discomfort over unfamiliar possibility. People remain in jobs they no longer enjoy, relationships that no longer nurture them, or patterns that no longer serve them. Not because they want to suffer, but because the unknown feels more frightening than the known. If you step back and look at these fears together, a remarkable pattern begins to emerge. Fear of rejection asks, "Will I still belong?" Fear of failure asks, "Will I still be enough?" Fear of change asks, "Will I still be safe?" On the surface, these appear to be different fears, but underneath, they are all asking the same fundamental question: will I be okay? That question has echoed through the human experience for thousands of years. This realization can change the way we see ourselves. Instead of judging ourselves for being afraid, we begin to recognize that fear is trying to protect something precious. It is attempting to guard our sense of belonging, our identity, our security, and our hope for the future. The problem is not that fear exists. The problem is that fear often mistakes growth for danger. It cannot always tell the difference between a genuine threat and an opportunity that simply requires courage. So how do we know when fear is wisely protecting us, and when it is quietly keeping us from becoming the person we're capable of being? The answer begins by changing the way we listen to fear itself. If fear has one goal, it is to get your attention. It raises its voice, tightens your muscles, speeds up your heartbeat, and fills your mind with every possible outcome that could go wrong. The problem is that we often mistake its urgency for authority. We assume that because fear feels strong, it must be telling the truth. But feelings are not always facts. Fear is designed to alert you to possible danger, not to make your decisions for you. Think about the warning lights on the dashboard of a car. If one suddenly illuminates, you wouldn't rip it out because it made you uncomfortable. Nor would you immediately assume that the engine was beyond repair. You would become curious. You would investigate what the signal was trying to tell you. Fear works much the same way. It is a signal asking for your attention, not a command demanding your obedience. Its purpose is to invite awareness, not to control your life. This is why one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is not, "How do I get rid of this fear?" but rather, what is this fear trying to protect? That simple shift changes everything. Instead of fighting the emotion, you begin listening to it. Perhaps your fear is trying to protect you from being hurt again. Perhaps it is guarding an old wound that never fully healed. Perhaps it is trying to preserve an identity you've built over many years. Or perhaps it is simply responding to uncertainty, because uncertainty has always felt uncomfortable. Whatever the answer may be, fear almost always believes it is acting in your best interest, even when its information is outdated. Once you've identified what fear is protecting, another question naturally follows. Is this danger happening right now? Or is my brain remembering an older experience? Sometimes the answer will be that the danger is real, and your fear is serving you well. Healthy fear keeps us from walking into genuinely harmful situations. It encourages us to slow down, pay attention, and make wise choices. But many times, you'll discover that the fear is reacting to something that happened years ago, applying an old survival strategy to a completely new chapter of your life. This is where courage begins to take shape. Courage is often misunderstood as fearlessness, but fearlessness is not the goal. In fact, people who feel no fear at all often make reckless decisions because they fail to recognize real danger. Courage is something much quieter and much wiser. Courage is hearing fear's concerns, thanking it for trying to protect you, and then making your decision based on your values rather than your anxiety. Fear may still be sitting beside you, but it is no longer holding the steering wheel. Imagine how different life becomes when fear is no longer the voice in charge, but simply one voice among many alongside fear, a curiosity, wisdom, hope, compassion, experience, and love. Each has something valuable to contribute. Fear can point out potential risks, but it cannot see the whole picture. It rarely notices your resilience, your growth, or the strength you've developed through every challenge you've already overcome. Perhaps that is the greatest misunderstanding about fear. We spend so much energy trying to silence it that we never stop to understand it. Yet fear is often carrying an important message. It may be reminding you of a place that still needs healing. It may be revealing a value that matters deeply to you. It may even be pointing toward the very direction where your greatest growth is waiting. The goal isn't to eliminate fear from your life, The goal is to learn when fear is describing reality, and when it is simply remembering a story that no longer has to define your future. If you're able to, find a comfortable position and allow yourself to become still. There is nowhere you need to be for the next few minutes, and nothing you need to solve. Simply allow yourself to arrive in this moment. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and gently breathe out through your mouth. With each breath, allow your body to settle just a little more. Relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw. Let the muscles around your eyes become gentle. Simply notice your breathing without trying to change it. Now imagine yourself standing at the edge of a quiet forest, just before sunrise. The world is peaceful. A soft morning mist drifts between the trees, and golden light begins filtering through the branches. The air feels cool and fresh, carrying the scent of pine and earth after a gentle rain. Birds are beginning to sing, and somewhere in the distance you hear the quiet sound of a flowing stream. There's a feeling here that everything is exactly as it should be. As you begin walking along the path, you notice someone standing ahead. They are facing away from you, quietly looking into the forest. As you draw closer, you realize this figure represents your fear. It isn't dark or frightening. It simply stands there, watchful and cautious, carrying the weight of trying to protect you for a very long time. For a moment, simply observe this figure without judgment. Notice how they hold themselves. Perhaps their shoulders are tense from constantly preparing for danger. Perhaps they seem exhausted from always watching every possible outcome. Perhaps they simply appear uncertain. You realize that fear has spent years scanning the horizon, trying to anticipate every disappointment, every rejection, every failure, and every unexpected change before it could ever reach you. Instead of avoiding this figure, you slowly walk beside them. Together, the two of you continue along the forest path in silence. There is no need to argue, no need to convince fear that it is wrong. You simply allow it to be present. After walking together for a while, you gently ask, "What have you been trying so hard to protect?" Allow the question to settle without searching for an answer. Perhaps a thought comes to mind. Perhaps you simply feel an emotion. Maybe you recognize that fear has been trying to protect your heart from rejection, your confidence from failure, or your sense of security from uncertainty. Whatever arises, receive it with kindness instead of criticism. As the path continues, you notice something changing. The figure beside you begins to relax. Their shoulders slowly lower. Their breathing becomes calmer. The constant vigilance that once consumed them begins to soften. You realize that fear has never wanted to control your life. It only wanted to make sure you survived it. You stop beside a peaceful lake. The water is perfectly still, reflecting the golden colors of the sunrise above. Looking into the reflection, you notice something unexpected. Fear no longer appears larger than you. It stands beside you as an equal, one part of your experience, but no longer the one leading the journey. You turn toward fear and quietly say, "Thank you for trying to protect me. You've helped me through difficult moments, and I'm grateful for your concern. But today, I don't need you to make every decision for me. You can walk beside me, but you don't have to lead me anymore." As those words settle, the figure smiles gently. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't need to. Instead, it simply becomes lighter, quieter, and more at peace. You begin walking again, side by side toward the rising sun. Fear is still with you, but it no longer feels heavy. It has become a companion, rather than a commander. As the forest opens into a wide hilltop overlooking a beautiful valley, the first rays of sunlight spread across the landscape. You pause for a moment, taking in the view. In that peaceful silence, you realize something profound. Courage was never about leaving fear behind. Courage has always been about understanding fear well enough that it no longer determines the direction of your life. Take one final slow, deep breath. Feel the warmth of the morning sun on your face. Feel the steadiness beneath your feet. Carry with you the quiet understanding that fear may continue to whisper from time to time, but it is no longer the loudest voice within you. From this moment forward, you can listen to fear with compassion and still choose your own path. Fear has walked beside humanity since the very beginning. Long before we built cities, explored space, or understood the science of the human brain, fear helped our ancestors survive. It reminded them to pay attention, to be cautious, and to recognize danger before it was too late. Without fear, none of us would be here today. It has always been one of our greatest protectors. But somewhere along the way, many of us began believing that fear itself was the enemy. We assumed that if we felt afraid, it meant we were weak, unprepared, or incapable. We waited for fear to disappear before speaking up, taking a chance, pursuing a dream, or becoming the person we wanted to be. Yet the truth is that fear was never meant to disappear. It was meant to be understood. The next time fear shows up in your life, notice the story your mind immediately begins to tell. Does it insist that you will fail? That people will reject you? That change is too risky? That you're not ready? Instead of accepting those thoughts as absolute truth, become curious. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to protect? Then ask another question that may be even more important. Is this fear describing the reality I'm living today? Or is it remembering a reality that has already passed? You may discover that fear is pointing toward an old wound rather than a present danger. You may realize that the voice warning you to stay small was formed years ago, during a time when you truly did need protection. And if that's the case, you can thank fear for carrying you through those difficult moments, while gently reminding it that your life has changed. You are no longer the same person you were then. You have grown. You have learned. You have survived experiences you once believed you never could. This doesn't mean you should ignore fear. Healthy fear has an important place in our lives. It encourages us to think carefully, recognize genuine risks, and make wise decisions. But fear was never meant to become the architect of your future. It can offer information, but it should not write your story. It can sit beside you, but it doesn't have to hold the map. Perhaps courage has never been about becoming fearless. Perhaps courage is simply learning to hear fear without surrendering your life to it. It is recognizing that fear is one voice within you, not the only voice. Alongside fear, live wisdom, compassion, curiosity, resilience, hope, and love. As you continue growing, those voices become stronger, clearer, and more trustworthy. So the next time fear appears, don't immediately ask how to make it disappear. Pause for a moment. Listen carefully. Thank it for trying to protect you. Then gently decide whether the path it is pointing toward is truly the one your heart wants to follow. Because fear is not proof that you should stop. Fear is not proof that you will fail. Fear is not proof that you are incapable. More often than not, fear is simply standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, asking if you're certain you want to continue. And sometimes, the very path that fear is asking you to avoid is the path that leads to your greatest growth. Fear is a signal, not a sentence, not your identity, not your future. It is simply one part of being human. And when you learn to understand that signal, instead of running from it, you stop living a life directed by fear and begin living a life directed by wisdom. Your heart is ready. And whenever you need a reminder, I'll be right here.